Okay, so for the folks who are in the online class, can the face-to-face class describe what I just had you folks do here? What did I have you guys do? Everybody's going to be writing out outlines for these things, but for the face-to-face class, Madison, can you share what did I just have you guys do?
We sat in the dark and had to discuss with our neighbors what we did over winter break.
So you sat in the dark, and if you want to write this down, you sat in the dark and you had to basically talk to your neighbors about what you did over the break and anything else you wanted to talk about. But the underlying task was to do what?
For you to observe how our visual perception changed over time.
Yeah, the idea was to do how your visual perception changed over time. That was your task. So you want to write notes on this, either on a notepad, or if you have a computer, you can certainly use that. Let me tell you, so why don't you tell me, what did you notice about visual perceptions during this? I basically went for about 10 minutes here. What did you notice visually during that 10 minutes of time? When I turned the lights off initially, talk to me about the perception. What did you get for perception?
For the most part, everything was pitch black.
Everything was pitch black. What could you not really do very well? Could you hear the voice?
Yeah.
Anything else? Could you see anything? Couldn't really see anything at all. You could hear the acoustics, because the acoustics don't take lights. And once again, if you want to write these kind of things down, that would be a good idea. So you could hear the voices, but you really couldn't see anything visually. Did that change over time?
Yeah.
How did it change over time? If you want to raise your hand, that would be good for me. Go ahead.
Their eyes became adjusted to the darkness, so you could see a little bit better.
So the eyes became adjusted to the darkness so you could see a little bit better. Would other people concur with that conclusion?
Yes.
Yeah, we would concur with that particular conclusion. But how were you able to see a little bit better? So help me out here just a little bit. How was that perception a little better? Go ahead.
We were able to see outlines, people, like you could tell that there was a person like sitting across from you or sitting beside you, stuff like that.
You could see outlines of people sitting next to you. Would you add to that?
And then depending on where you were sitting, because there was light coming from there.
Yeah, there was a little ambient light coming from the door here and the door there.
You could see more of like things that were white instead of things that were darker. If that makes sense.
So you could see more things because the light started shining. You could see that. Any other changes in your visual perceptions? And what's the title of this class? Sensation and perception. So things were going on at a sensory level. You may want to write down that were changing your perceptions. Any other perceptual changes you noticed? Did anybody take a look at the whole classroom and any things you noticed about things in the classroom that were going on? What about me? Was I doing anything?
You were pacing back and forth.
I was, in fact, pacing back and forth. Was I doing that because of being nervous on the first day of class? Possibly, but not in this particular case. I was doing that. When did you start noticing that? So Dr. Tausman was walking around, if you want to write in your notes. I actually started as soon as I turned the lights off. How many people were able to perceive that over time? Did people perceive that when it first started occurring?
Yeah, I could hear you walk behind.
Oh, you could hear, the acoustics were kind of coming in there. Actually, at first I was just going back and forth this way, but then I got a little more adventuresome and walked behind you, Alexa. I was almost going to walk around, but I didn't want to stumble and cause a stir, as it would be. Any other changes in perception over those periods of time? Go ahead.
I feel like when we first shut the lights off and you were like talking to your neighbor, it was hard for me to like actually talk to her because I couldn't see her. And that's how I like talk to people. I look at them and like it's face to face, but like it's just hard.
You actually bring up a very interesting point that speech perception for a lot of people is an acoustic phenomenon, but it's also visual. When you're talking to people directly, you're actually getting a lot of visual information at the same time you're getting acoustic information. So if you want to write that down for the notes, yeah, it was kind of a little more difficult to do. Any other changes in sensations and perceptions that you noticed? Those are good notes and things to write down. Okay, so let me tell you what the online group, what I asked them to do. And I posted this. Go to a room with virtually no light. If you need to block some windows, doors, I was actually doing this in my daughter's room. The more you can make it pitch black, the better. And using a keyboard or a phone or a computer, type in what you did over the break. Where you are from, jobs, hobbies, kind of the same thing that you guys were talking about, right? So you'll want to write this down as well, what their task was. It'll be posted for you. You'll also have access in this face-to-face class to all the acoustics as well. But we had a few people with thoughts here. We have about 5 people taking this class just online. When I initially turned the lights off, I was able to identify where a few things were within the room, but it was hard to focus on the screen and the computer. Then it became easier. I had a hard time getting my eyes to focus or see anything but darkness. At the beginning of the discussion, it was hard to see the keyboard, but after a while, I started adapting to the situation. And so this was, for the purpose of the class, if we look at the agenda here, make this a little larger. What we actually just covered here was, that was the demonstration to start class off with. So I'm going to stop the